A warm welcome to all of you. Welcome to Holywell Music Room, to Wadham, to Oxford. If you're watching online, I know there are a lot of alumni around the world, from sort of Hong Kong through to, where it's very late, through to the States watching, and in Europe. So you're very welcome. Great to see you. I need to do the formalities that if there's a fire, the exits are there and there. If you're at home, you'll have to make your own arrangements. But it's a huge pleasure to welcome back to Warden, Michael Rosen, who you all know from different parts of his amazing career, so I'm not going to start and try and summarize them. And also a great welcome to Zara Grieve, who left very recently actually, and was classicist here in Wadham, then did an MA in children's literature, so there's the connection. And Zara's going to ask Michael a few questions after he's presented to us on the COVID experience, which you will have read about and heard about, but Michael is going to do that for about 40 minutes. And then Zara will ask a few questions, and then we'll open it up to the floor in a very kind of Wadham informal way. And then there are drinks afterwards. So without further ado, thank you for coming. Thank you, Michael, and over to you.
Thanks very much. Thank you. You will have noticed there's an inquiry going on. Well, I have anyway, even if you haven't. It's been slightly secret, actually. It's quite strange, really. Some newspapers think that it's better not to comment on it. But I preempted it all a bit by writing my own inquiry in my own way. So that's what I'm going to read to you. And it begins like this. March the 13th, 2020, on the Today programme on BBC Radio, we discuss whether there's a thought going round that if old people die of COVID, it won't be so bad as young people dying of COVID. A woman says, if anyone goes, let it be me, not my grandson. I think, oh, is Mr. Death still doing the rounds then? I thought we didn't believe in him anymore. Does he turn up at our door and say, I've got to have one of you tonight, you have to choose? Take me, we old and shout, leave the young ones. Is that it? In March 2020, you can't see, you can't go to A&E, you can't get tested, all you can do is ring a paramedic. I ring a paramedic. He tells me to breathe down the phone. I breathe. He listens. He asks me if I felt worse than yesterday. I say no. He says, you're okay then. March the 27th, 2020, a tweet, day 12 of being ill. The year's seasons roll by in a night. Sweats, freezes, sweats, freezes. I wonder whose mouth I had. I don't remember it as made of sandpaper. Water is as good as ever. In the spare room at home, I say to Emma, it feels like I can't get enough air. There isn't enough air. I can't catch up, I say. I get so ill, Emma calls our friend and neighbour who's a doctor. She comes over with an oximeter. Emma puts it on my finger. 58, Emma says. Doctor says, is that the pulse? Emma says, no, the pulse is 115. Doctor writes later that she had never seen anyone with 58 who was still conscious. Emma drives me to A&E, Elsie, our daughter, in the back. I am panting. It's night. The road is empty. I go in. I don't have time to turn around. They're gone. A doctor is standing by my bed asking me if I would sign a piece of paper which will allow them to put me to sleep and pump air into my lungs. Will I wake up, I say. There's a 50-50 chance, he says. If I say no, I say, 0, he says. I sign. The nurses and volunteers in my intensive care ward keep a kind of journal about my stay there. They say it's my patient diary, or as I call it, my very patient diary. On the cover it says, this diary can be completed by relatives, friends, nurses, doctors and allied health professionals to record the patient's daily events. The diary may help with the patient's post-critical care recovery by providing them with information and insight into a time when they were not aware. April 9th. Dear Michael, we are your ITU helpers today. You're doing fantastically well and fighting hard. You still have a breathing tube, but you're doing well. Keep fighting. Ella C. and Lizzie. April 10. Hi, Michael. I'm your helper this evening. Your vitals are slowly improving. Never quite found out what they are, actually. I don't know whether they're my testicles. I'm not quite sure, but anyway. Including your temperature. We've wrapped you in a heated blanket and reposition you regularly to improve your lung perfusion. You're sleeping peacefully at the moment, monitored and controlled by the ventilator. We've still another 8 hours together, but so far so good. Jenny, physio by day, ITC helper by night. Dan, who's a speech and language therapist, volunteers to work on my intensive care ward. He keeps his own diary. He changes our names. He calls me Mr. Jacobs. He writes, I said a few Hail Marys over Mr. Jacobs, even though I know he's Jewish. I think, good idea. Cover all the bases. Next day, Dan writes, came in, Mr. Jacobs still alive. I think you must have thought when you went home the night before that Mr. Jacobs was going to cop it. Dear, oh dear, poor Mr. Jacobs. April 14th, dear Michael, you required a ventilator to take over your breathing due to your further deterioration. The ICU team had to prone you, meaning you had to lie on your belly to help improve your oxygenation. This procedure required 7 people to reposition you safely. We're hoping to see you improving every day. Take one day at a time. You'll get there soon. All the best, Michael. Margie, ICU nurse. April 17th, dear Michael, my name is Beth, and I've been the nurse looking after you overnight. I normally work at Great Ormond Street Hospital looking after children, but have been moved here to help look after adults. I call you guys big children. You've done really well overnight. You're starting to move little bits, which is excellent. Hope you continue this great progress. Again, I don't know which little bits, but anyway, you've got this. Look forward to meeting you when you wake up. You wrote my favourite book. We're going on a bear hunt. All the best, Beth. April 19th, dear Michael, my name is Natasha. I'm usually employed in the community, but because the school I work in is closed, I'm helping out in ICU. This evening, one of the IV lines in your neck was taken out because the doctors are happy with your progress. You've also been moving your arms about a little, and I think you might have been aware of us speaking to you. Keep fighting, Michael. April 24th. Hello, Michael. I've been asking you to blink and squeeze my hand to communicate, and you've been diligently obliging. That is actually the only time in my life anyone has ever said that I've been diligently obliging. Please send your NHS anniversary poem to Boris Johnson. Best of luck, Kajal Doshi, physio, ICU helper. April 26th. Hey, Michael, today's been a busy day for you. Lots of doctors and nurses have been caring for you. You've been well cared for. You've been restless at times, but I've been there to hold your hand. Alison. April 29th. Good afternoon, Michael. It's Claire, the physio again. You must be sick of me talking to you today. We've been chatting a lot to keep you stimulated so your blood pressure rises. You're turning your head when I'm talking to you as well. Great stuff. Keep going. You've got this. Claire. April 29th, night shift. You still have a breathing tube going into your throat, meaning you aren't able to speak. So unfortunately for you, it's mostly me chatting away to you. I seemed to get a response when I mentioned that you supported Arsenal, judging from your pictures, but you didn't seem impressed when I told you that I was a Derby County fan. Keep going, keep fighting, and keep being so strong. Lizzie, kiss, kiss, physio. Emma's email to the family, that's my wife, May the 2nd. Hi all, Mick is experiencing delirium at the moment, and this is making him quite agitated, hallucinating, and moving his arms and legs around. The doctor asked me for some music last evening, and apparently some Django Reinhardt seemed to soothe him a bit. Elsie, that's our daughter, and I made a playlist for him this morning, which is now taped on the wall by his bed, and the staff already played him some of the tracks. Love to all, Emma Kiss. May the 3rd. You're trying to communicate now by mouthing words and nodding, or shaking your head, or using facial expressions. Natasha. May the 3rd overnight. Your blood pressure decided that it fancied being a yo-yo. And we've had to do a good amount of deep suctioning via your trachea, the breathing tube in your throat. I'm really sorry that this is so unpleasant. It's so important to get that mucus out of your lungs. Sorry about the graphic nature of this. I'm sorry I can't write more. With the pandemic, each nurse has multiple patients. But keep fighting. You'll go home soon. Sarah. Hi, Michael. May the 4th. We are going to video call your family shortly. It's always important for recovery to hear familiar voices. Keep fighting. I know you can do this. Best wishes. Holly. May the 4th again. Dear Michael, things may seem like a dream when you're here. You may remember vivid memories or images, sounds, or even smells. This is very normal. Your family have been sending their love every day. All the best in your recovery. Joe, nurse. May the 6th. Afternoon, Michael. We've had a busy day so far. It started off with spa time. A bed bath, hair comb, nail cut and clean, and we also shaved your beard. Sorry, we know you usually have a beard, but this is just so that we can keep the area around your trachea clean. I'm unsure whether I'll work with you again, Michael. I should be heading back to my bladder and bowel team. Best wishes, Holly. May the 7th, dear Michael, happy birthday. It's been so lovely to help look after you today on your birthday. You've been popular today. FaceTime calls from your family and a birthday card. You were also treated to a rendition of Happy Birthday from about 15 ICU staff around your bedside and a round of applause from staff and one of the other patients. Get well soon. Sophie, physiotherapist. Monique, ITU nurse. Emma, email to the family, May the 15th. Hi all. Mick has been calmer, more settled, and has been off all sedation for the last few days. He is responding to some commands with hand squeezing, arm movements, etc., and has some improved function in his muscles, which are obviously very weakened after so long. They think he may have some nerve damage, and I don't know if this could be permanent or temporary, and what the cause is. He's still on the antibiotics for the cavitating pneumonia. All love for now, Emma Kiss. May 15, night shift. Hi, Michael. I originally admitted you to the intensive care unit 40 days ago. Well, what a roller coaster you've been on since then, and you're still here to tell the tale. Sorry to laugh at that. I have read your birthday cards and messages to you tonight and continually remind you where you are, which seems to help when you start to get a bit agitated. Get well soon, Carmen. May 16, night shift, dear Michael. It's Natasha again. Although you can't voice yet because of the cuffed tracheostomy tube, you have been able to indicate yes, no, and with a combination of guesswork and your expressive non-verbal communication skills, you are able to ask some questions and make comments. There have been moments when you've been distressed and needed lots of reassurance. This is completely understandable. Being in ITU under the current circumstances can be incredibly disorienting and traumatic. I wish you safely home soon, Natasha. Emma, email to the family, May the 17th. Hi all. At short notice today, the hospital allowed me to visit Mick. They wheeled his bed out onto the 4th floor where there's a great view of London, so I could sit with him. I played him all the little messages you recorded for him, and he definitely responded to them. He has now also had a negative COVID test. Bloody hurrah. All love, Emma Kiss. May 18th. Hi, Michael. You've been trying to tell us a few things, but we haven't been able to understand, and that's been very frustrating for you. But you've told us you're comfortable, and you've stayed positive in spite of it all. Keep fighting, it will all be worth it. Dan, speech and language therapist, helper. May 19, day 43. Please be patient with yourself, slowly but surely. I can't blame you that you really wanted to go home. Hospital can be quite boring at times. May you continue to touch and inspire every human being you will encounter. God bless, your nurse, Wincy. May 21, dear Michael, talking to you this evening, you're expressing how you've had to relearn many things as you recover from your illness. This is true, but remember to give yourself the time to do this. You'll get stronger day by day. Be patient if you can. We will help you as you continue on your journey of recovery. So pleased to be able to talk with you and to hear your voice. Best wishes, Louise. May 22nd, email from Emma. Hi all. I'm very happy to say that Michael is moving out of ICU tonight. He's talking, still confused, delirium at times, and is trying to piece it all together, obviously, but slowly becoming more Mick-like. I'm going to the hospital in a bit to deliver him some comfy bedclothes, a soft blanket, his own toiletries, etc. He will have been in hospital 8 weeks tomorrow and has spent 47 days in ICU. Look forward to a glass of wine later. Love to all, Emma, kiss. After the coma, they put me in a geriatric ward. I suppose they think I might be terminal. One nurse must think I'm a bit sprightly. She says, "What are you in here for?" I say, "I don't know." And if I don't know and you don't know, then we're both in trouble, aren't we? The consultant says that when they took me off the drugs that were keeping me asleep, I didn't wake up, so they got Emma to come in, as you've heard. She held my hand and played recordings of the kids in my ear, and I waved my arm. Then they wheeled me back into the lift. The consultant says she was the game changer. After that, I didn't stop talking. Not like me at all. A nurse stands by my bed and says, "You're on puree." It says so over your bed. I've got cottage pie. She feeds me the pureed cottage pie with a spoon. It tastes fantastic. I love it. I say, "Thank you for the cottage pie and thank you for feeding me." Very poorly. It's something they say about me. Every so often, a doctor or nurse stands by my bed and says, "You were very poorly." I'm starting to expect it. They often seem pleased, surprised almost that I'm less poorly. I get the feeling that some people who were very poorly died. I didn't die. After the coma, 4 people come to my bed and lift me up so that I can stand. I shake all over. I look down and see my legs. They're my father's legs when he was dying. You sat with me, you washed me, you cleaned me, you shaved me, you held my hand, you woke me up to stop my blood pressure going down. You sang to me, you talked to Emma, you played me her playlist, you wrote to me in the patient diary, you told me to keep fighting. It's the sort of thing we do for our children as parents, but you're not my parents. A psychologist comes to my bed and he says, "We filled you up with mind-changing drugs. You may have frightening hallucinations." I say, I dream I'm at a German Christmas party. I can't move and they throw berries in the air and they explode. Poof. And then we all sing, "Stille Nacht, heilige Nacht." He says. In the geriatric ward, I shrink down to a body they test. Bits of a body they test, a body in bits, eye, toe, ear, ribs, tongue, tailbone, eye, toe, ear, ribs, skin, lips, ribs, eye. That's what I am, a body in bits. One night on the phone in the geriatric ward, I say to Emma that when I come home, I'd better live upstairs so that I can crawl to the loo. I don't think I'll be able to go up and down the stairs. A month later when I get home, I see that we have a downstairs loo. I'd forgotten we had a downstairs loo. One night in the geriatric ward, I lie in bed trying to remember my shoes. I don't know what shoes I've got. I don't know what shoes I've got at home. I could remember my Crocs. I couldn't remember what shoes I had at home. I don't tell Emma that because I feel ashamed. I lie on my back and make up a story. I make up a story in my head about a cat who longs to have pasta. He can't have pasta because his owners go away and forget to tell the boy looking after the cat that the cat loves pasta. I write the story and it's published. It's called Rigatoni the Pasta Cat. I think it's about me in hospital longing for hummus. In the geriatric ward, I look down to the bottom of the bed at my big toes. The nails have come off, and there's just dried blood. Ah yes, that's what's happening with COVID, they say. Sticky blood fills the capillaries burst, and bits of the toes die. Your hands speak. Touch is a language. Each palm, each fingertip is a line from your stories. I get what they each say. This hand is in a hurry. This hand hesitates. These hands are worried. They catch me as I slope sideways. This hand knows a lot. It hunts for the lumps where previous jabs filled me with blood thinner. This hand hunts for bed sores. It spreads Vaseline and kindness. After you've taken my blood pressure and you clip the oximeter on my finger to find out if I'm taking up oxygen, you stand at the end of my bed and stare at me. I ask you why. You say, you're doing my obs. What is this? I say. We look at you to find out how you are, you say. Well, what do you write down? I say. What we see, you say. Oh, I'd like to look at that one day, I say. Now that I've been in for weeks, there must be yards and yards of obs. I wonder what they say. Things like, he could do with a haircut. Or, he looks less dead today. The consultant says, Michael, we didn't know if you were brain dead or not. I say, well, you didn't tell me that at the time. And he says, well, there wasn't any point. We thought you were brain dead, wasn't it? The consultant says you've got 3 blood clots in your pulmonary artery. I say, should I worry? He says, oh, you'll probably digest them. I think of clots like scabs. On camping holidays, me and my friend Mark used to eat our scabs. Maybe it'll be something like that. We think we know who we are. There's the mind, and there's seeing our body and feeling it as it does its bodily things. Then you get ill, and doctors and nurses start reading stuff inside you. Liver, kidneys, spinal column. You knew they were there, but you couldn't read them. When my father and brother teased me, my mother would say, leave him alone, he's tired. They learnt it. So first they'd tease me, and then before Mum could say it, they would say, leave him alone, he's tired. It could be on my gravestone. Leave him alone, he's tired. I go to the rehab hospital. I can't stand up. I can't walk. The physiotherapists and occupational therapists tell me that they'll get me walking in 3 weeks. I don't believe them. At the rehab hospital on the first day, a guy who'd been in the Greek army comes to my bedside, claps his hands together and says, 1, 2, 3, let's go. I say, go where? I can't move. I have a dream. I'm in a place where I can't see or hear. I can't feel what I'm touching. I can't taste my tongue. There's a field of bodies. We stare with eyes that can't see. I'm under bodies, but I tug on legs and heads and get free. I look back and see 10,000 elbows, hips and knees. They belong to people, and I don't know why I'm not one of them. I learnt to walk when I was 1. I learnt to walk when I was 17 after a car accident, and I'm learning to walk again now I'm 74, 3 times. Seems a bit excessive. At the rehab hospital, the occupational therapist says, throw the balloon to me. I try, but it's too heavy. They've been worried about my low blood pressure, but they've brought me the Daily Mail, so it'll be fine in just a moment. A therapist comes to my bed and says, you had a tracheostomy, so you have to be careful about what you eat. You can't eat raisins, she says. But some days that's all I eat, I say. I tell children in schools my name is Michael Raisin. You can't eat raisins anymore, she says. They say your voice is very feeble. You need voice therapy. After all that time in a coma, your diaphragm has forgotten how to work. They say I have to sing down a plastic straw so that it blows bubbles and trill through my lips. I do a lot of that. about 100 times a day. Brrr. Now my diaphragm works. At the rehab hospital, one guy says that he's going to bunk off going to the gym that afternoon. I lie in bed wondering, what is he bunking off from? Is he bunking off from himself? They give me a stick. I call it Sticky McStick-Stick. It helps me walk. I love Sticky McStick-Stick. But then a physiotherapist says that I've become stick-reliant. So I have to throw away Sticky McStick-Stick. The first time I walk to the toilet without Sticky McStick-Stick, I sing Search for the Hero Inside Yourself to get me there. I sit on the loo and think, I wonder how many people have sung Search for the Hero Inside Yourself to get themselves to the loo. When I get home, I do get home, spoiler alert, when I get home, there's a letter from the hospital for me. It says that while I was in intensive care, there was an outbreak of Klebsiella, cavitating pneumonia. Bits of my lungs cavitated. I imagine something in my lungs making caves. After I come out of hospital, someone sends me a card with the message, Resurrection of the Year. I guess that bit of the year saves it from being blasphemous. I go to see the doctor. He says that bleeds in my brain have knocked out the nerve. Sorry, he's the ear doctor. I go to see the ear doctor. He says that bleeds in my brain have knocked out the nerve. And I say, that's what the eye doctor said. The bleeds knocked out my eye. He gives me a hearing aid. Keep it on all day, he says. He goes over to a computer. I'll be able to see on here if you've got it on or not. The eye doctor says, why have you still got your tracheostomy dressing on? I say, there's a hole. He says, I'll find you someone. A woman takes me away. She looks in the hole. You're granulating, she says. This'll hurt. It's silver nitrate. Psh! Later, the hole closes. The eye doctor says she was in cosmetics. I was bad. I took a wrong turning in life. I got old. I didn't mean to get old. Perhaps someone led me astray. Perhaps I was weak. I just got into bad ways and I kept doing it, kept on and on, being old. I'll always be grateful to people who saw a bit of good in me in spite of everything. I'm glad to have been given a second chance. I'm trying not to be old now, but it's hard. I get tempted. 2 physios come over at home and sit on the sofa. They ask me, what are your long-term objectives? I thought, have I got any of them? I wondered, have I ever had long-term objectives? I don't think so. What are your long-term objectives right now, they say. And I say, to be able to walk to the end of the street, go to the Jewish deli, remember what I went there for, and bring it back home all by myself. That would be good, I think. Yes, they say. Anything else? Live for a bit more, I say. And come to think of it, I've never bothered to make pickled cucumbers. No, I haven't. I just buy them, but my mother made lovely pickled cucumbers. I would like to try that one day. You're doing very well, they say. I've discovered that some people think that over 70s are dispensable. Or they think that if we die, there's more chance that they'll be saved. I walk into walls, the edge of the table is nearer than I think it is. I pour, but miss the cup. I miss the bottom step. You call from the living room and I go and look for you in the bathroom. The cats are not stuck in the cupboard, they're stuck in the loo. I hold banisters. I say to the consultant that just before you guys put me to sleep, you said I had a 50-50 chance of waking up. Was that what we all had on that ward, 50-50? More or less, he says, yeah. In the end, we lost about 42%. The consultant says that the intensive care ward was equipped for 11 patients. At the worst moment, we had 24. We're supposed to have one nurse with one patient all the time, 24 hours a day. Sometimes we had one nurse running between 3 or 4 patients. Some nurses haven't recovered. People say to me, do you remember anything about being in the coma? I say, no, nothing. I don't remember anything of the coma or waking up or the first days after that. Then it gets complicated. I remember times when I thought I knew what was going on, but now I know that I didn't know what was going on. When the doctor said that I had a 50-50 chance of waking up, I remember thinking now, hey, that's not so bad. 50-50 is quite good. And then I thought, if I go, at least I won't know I'm going. Like my son Eddie. That's what the doctor said about Eddie. He wouldn't have known he was going. All the membranes of his cells leaking. His insides turning to mush, he said. He died of meningococcal septicemia. My grown-up sons come over and take the dad for a walk. I don't have a lead. I don't run off. And I don't sniff other dads. When I come out of hospital, I forget the names of Tom Cruise, George Clooney, and Meryl Streep. I have famous Hollywood film stars forgetting syndrome. I'm worried that I can't see much with my left eye. The eye docs say they're worried about the pressure in my eyes. They laser holes in my eyes. They take out lenses and put in plastic ones. They put plastic drains in my eyes. The pressure's okay, but I'm worried I can't see much with my left eye. The consultant says at the beginning there wasn't enough PPE. One time the PPE that came into the ward was second-hand. One piece came out of the packing with blood on. I wonder who's been punching me in the eye. It says on the side of the bottle of eye drops that the drops might stain my eye. It does stain my eye. I look in the mirror. There's a circle of red skin. No one's been punching me in the eye. On March the 13th, 2020, just about when I caught COVID, there was a lot of talk in the media about herd immunity. What were they thinking of? That we'd be like rabbits that we used to see by the side of the road dying of myxomatosis? Hundreds of thousands of rabbits died. The ones who could resist it bred. So now you don't see rabbits dying of myxo, as we used to call it. Was there a moment when they thought that we were going to be like rabbits, hundreds of thousands of people were going to have to die? Later, they said that they never did think that, though today and yesterday, they admitted they did think that. I've just added that bit. The 66-year-old journalist tweets at me, yes, we know you were ill, Michael, but you're 74. But? That but is doing a lot of heavy lifting. What's but about being 74? Are my days less valid than her days? If I'd copped it, would that have been more okay than if she had copped it? With the echocardiogram, I hear bubbles and beats and volcanic mud plopping. As the probe slides over my chest, some bubbles get louder, others quieter. At the end, the man says, "Your left ventricular function is good." Now I feel proud of my left ventricle. When people meet me, they say, "You're alive." And I say, "Are you sure?" At the brain hospital, they do a cognitive functioning test on me. First question is, what is the name of the Prime Minister? One question in the cognitive functioning test at the brain hospital is matching little tiles to a picture. I struggle. I can't do it. I feel bad. She says, "Don't worry. We aren't trying to find out if you can do it or not. We're testing whether you can concentrate." Didn't realise. At the brain hospital, the nurse asks me how often I exercise. I say that I try to go for a 30-minute walk 3 times a week. She says it should be 5. The brain surgeon says, "Do you want to look at your brain?" I say, "I've been trying to look at my brain for years. I'm a writer." He puts up a slide. "It looks like you've had altitude sickness," he says. I say, "Well, the highest I've been is the 4th floor of the Whittington Hospital." Thoracic signed me off, but the consultant says that the scan shows that I have a thymic cyst. Should I be worried, I say? No. Why is it there, I say? I don't know, she says. Oh, where's it come from, I say. No, it's more like it's never gone away, she says. Oh, okay, I say. How long were you in the coma for, people say. 40 days, I say. 40 days and 40 nights. It was a bit biblical of me, wasn't it? Mind you, I'm not Jesus, although I am Jewish, and I wasn't on a boat, and there weren't any animals with me. My name's not Noah either. I tried to think of his wife's name. Mrs. Noah. My wife wasn't with me. I tell children about this. What was Noah's wife's name, I ask. One girl says, Stephanie. My knowledgeable Hebraists tell me that Noah's wife's name is in fact Naamah. I'll just share that with you. My father said, so long as you got your health and strength, you should worry. He said you should worry ironically, so it sounds like you got nothing to worry about. I didn't have my health and strength. Then I did. I should be so lucky. Now I sound like Kylie Minogue. You said that the last night I lay in the bed struggling to breathe, you thought the shadow of death crossed my face. I remember the line about walking through the valley of the shadow of death, or how the angel of death passes over and kills others. Pesach, Passover. I'm confused between thankful and sorry, thankful to be here now, sorry for those who didn't make it, sorry for you as I imagine what it felt like to look on that shadow. You get used to the body you've got, you know it, you may not have words for it, but you have pictures of bits of it and how the bits move. Your body says, hi, I'm your back, this is how you bend. Another bit says, hi, I'm your mouth, this is what your teeth feel like. Hi, I'm your legs, this is how you walk. It's your body in your mind. Then a big thing happens and your body changes, you've got a new body bits, and your mind struggles to know it. To start off with, it doesn't want to. Your mind doesn't want to. You don't want to know your new body. You want your new body to go away. Then slowly you start to find out ways to get to know it. You can try not to, though. It won't make any difference. It'll still be there saying, hi, I'm your new body. It doesn't walk away. It's always with you. You have to get on together. I stand up to speak. I say, I'm glad to be here. And then I think about it. I say, I'm glad to be here in this place with you, the audience, and I'm also just glad to be here. I said to Emma, the physiotherapist, not my wife, Emma, the physiotherapist at the rehab hospital, that I didn't think I'd be able to do a show to hundreds of children in a theatre again. She said I would. This year I do a show to hundreds of children at the Queen Elizabeth Hall on the South Bank in London. A woman with her kids asks me to sign a book. It's me, she says. It's Emma, the physiotherapist. I tried to die, but they wouldn't let me. And then the poem I wrote for the 60th anniversary of the NHS was pinned up by the side of my bed. Nurses pointed out to me, but I couldn't actually read it. But I believed it was the one that I wrote. And I found out that various people, while I was ill, read it on the telly and on the radio. I think Sophie Rayworth read it on the telly. And Michael Sheen read it on the Joe Wiley show on Radio 2. I heard the recording of it, and he reads it very, very much better than I do. It goes, these are the hands, you can laugh at that bit if you like, it's all right. These are the hands that touch us first, feel your head, find the pulse, and make your bed. These are the hands that tap your back, test the skin, hold your arm, wheel the bin, change the bulb, fix the drip, pour the jug, replace your hip. These are the hands that fill the bath, mop the floor, flick the switch, soothe the sore, burn the swabs, give us a jab, throw out sharps, design the lab. And these are the hands that stop the leaks, empty the pan, wipe the pipes, carry the can, clamp the veins, make the cast, log the dose, and touch us last. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
you, and then come.
Thank you. That reading was really wonderful.
Thank you, Zara. Thank you.
I wanted to ask, so obviously in one of the letters that was written in your diary by one of your nurses, we're going on a bear hunt, came up, and it recurs a few times in the book. That one story of yours, and of course you've got such a big corpus, what is it about we're going on a bear hunt that you think still manages to engage so many generations?
First of all, I should make clear that We're Going on a Bear Hunt precedes me. So you may have heard of the Brothers Grimm. They didn't write We're Going on a Bear Hunt, just to clear that out. But the Brothers Grimm went round collecting stories, and so you can chart from 1812 from the notes they took right the way through to their last edition. I think they went through maybe as many as 5. I'm not sure how many now, think about it. But they kept changing things and adding things. So you have the idea of something in a folk tradition that is then adapted and changed. And yet, if you look at the pages of, it says on the cover, you know, Kinder- und Hausmärchen, and it says Die Brüder Grimm, or their names, Jakob and Wilhelm. And so, if you look at the title page of We're Going on a Bear Hunt, it says Retold by Michael Rosen. So what did I retell it from? What was the kind of folk corpus, to use your word, folk corpus that existed before I wrote it? Well, it was an American summer camp song, sometimes with guns in. It was also a Brownie song, the Brownies, as in the Scout movement, and they did a lion hunt, so they go, we're going on a lion hunt, so that was another version. There was a Scots folk singer, still is, but wonderful Scots folk singer called Alison McMorland, and she did a version of it, and I made it one of my performance pieces. So this is sort of in the late 70s, early 80s. I'm going around doing my show and then finishing with chum 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 chum, we're going on, and all the rest of it, you know it. So anyway, so I would do that, and then what happened was that David Lloyd, who was the managing director of Walker Books, he came to see my show, and I said, how was it? What did you think? He said, oh, that bit at the end I thought was really good. So the previous 50 minutes of my poems, he was... Anyway, I said, oh, good, great. He said, that would make a great picture book. And I said, oh, good, yeah, no, you should do that, David. He said, no, I'd like you to write it down. I said, well, you write it down. You know, he goes, we're going on a bear hunt, we're going to catch a bear. Well, you've joined in anyway, David. He said, I want you to write it down. I said, no, you write it down. Just write it down on a piece of paper. I want you to write it down. So I wrote it down, and I quickly discovered that the way I did it and the way in summer camp songs and Brownies and Scouts and so on do it is that you make noises. So you don't, when you go through the grass, you go shoo, shoo, shoo. And when you go through the mud, you go you see? And I quickly realized that it didn't make a lot of sense on a page. So I sort of made up things like swishy swishy, and also I discovered that to sort of make the rhythm work, you want some nice descriptions for each of the places. So, you know, whatever it is, find it difficult to remember. You know, deep cold river and that sort of thing, narrow gloomy cave. So I started writing those in, and I sent it to David, and he said, well, it's not long enough because all picture books have to be on multiples of 8. They print on great big sheets of 8 pictures. So it has to be a multiple of 8, and mine didn't work, you see. So he said, you'll have to think up some more things. So I said, fine, okay. So I thought up the forest, and then I had to make up some noises for that, didn't I? Stumble, trip, and the snowstorm, very creative for the snowstorm, which children love doing for hours, even while I'm going on with the rest of the piece. I go, and they're all going, ooh. I'm saying, no, we've moved on from the snowstorm, we're up at the cave now, ooh. And I made, in the cave, normally if you're doing it just noises, you just go like this. Sort of stalagmite sound. Or tight, which way they go? Tights you pull up. Tights fall, tights go down, mites crawl up. That's it, yeah. Anyway, stalagmites, stalactites. So I made it tiptoe, tiptoe, and he said, that's good. And so there's this thing based on a folk story, which has this, dare I say, existential truth about it in the middle of it, that you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you've got to go through it, which most of us wake up in the morning and actually think of something along those lines, even if we don't think those actual lines. I'm not responsible for those 3 brilliant lines. That is in the folk tradition, a tradition that I admire and love. So that great sort of existential truth that sits there. It's also a great participation piece, and you can see people of all ages enjoying being it, doing it. I get tweets every day from the nursery school in Aberdeen and a nursery school in Paris, and they're out at La Chasse à l'Ours in French. Wir gehen auf Bärenjagd. I'm checking with my great friend Ray there. Wir gehen auf Bärenjagd, have I got that right? Yeah, will that do? Okay, I see whether I can manage the Spanish now. Vamos a cazar un oso. Is that right? Spanish? Something like that. Anyway, Spanish up there. Was that okay? Anyway, so it seems to work, and I get these images of wonderful things of 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds, 1-year-olds reading it. So some of it is the folk tradition, but I haven't brought in Helen. So enter Helen Oxenbury. So Helen had this text that I gave her, and she said, "What ideas have you got?" And I said, "Well, how about sort of a thing like Carnival, with all sorts of characters that you see in Carnival, kings and queens and people all dressed up, and then at the end, they're following after a bloke in a bear suit." Yeah, that's it. And then he takes it off at the end, and she went, And I thought, I don't think I've sold this to Helen at all. Anyway, I didn't hear for about 2 years, possibly even more, and then suddenly I had this very sort of tremulous phone call from people at Walker Books, and they said, "Helen has done the pictures for Bear Hunt." I said, "Oh, great." I'd actually forgotten about it, because sometimes books take a long time to gestate. I mean, there's a book out that came out this week called The Big Dreaming. It's taken something like 15 years from the first time I wrote it to come out. It's just the nature of the children's book world. Anyway, so they said, "Will you come in and see it?" And I said, "It's all right, you know." No, we want you to come in. So I went into Walker Books, went upstairs, darkened room. I jest not. A darkened room, went in, and the 2 women from Walker Books, they were nearly weeping, I promise you. And then on the table was this sort of great big pile of paper, of handmade paper with tissue paper over the top. And then they peeled back the first picture. They peeled back the tissue so I could see the first picture. And they were sort of breathing and going, "What do you think?" And I looked at it, and it was one of those first pictures, and I thought, they made a mistake, is there? What's this got to do with the bear hunt? This is a holiday in Cornwall. And anyway, where's the bear? And I thought, and I went, and they said, "What do you think?" And I went, "Yeah, no, it's good." And then they peeled back the next one, and the next one. I thought, yeah, they're going, having this nice time. They're going Cornwall. There's a baby there with a baby and a dog. All right, it's interesting. And then we get to the bear in the cave, and I thought, do they have bears in caves in Cornwall? I don't know. I was being very, very literalist, you know, really very, very feeble-minded here. And they said, "What do you make of it?" And I said, "Yeah, no, it's great. It's great." And they could see that I really had no idea what I was looking at. And then, well, the rest is history, isn't it? I mean, it then became, but that's down to Helen. I mean, she created this huge family epic that can be mapped on to other people's lives from something that I thought was what's sometimes called like a play song. I've forgotten what they call them in Brownies. They sometimes call them, not shouts, what do you call it? Anyone? They call it? No. What do they call them? Chants or something. Or sometimes I think going all the way back to Baden-Powell, I think he used to call them rows or chants or shouts or something. Anyway, because there's lots of them, you know, dip, dib, dob and all that sort of thing. And there's lots of them. And so I literally didn't get it. Well, luckily I've studied children's literature and discovered by studying children's literature, as Zara knows, is that every picture book is a brilliant dynamics, that though it looks at you still, in fact, what you do is do what's called a relay between the text. And if you think of a 2-year-old hearing the text and the picture you see, and they are never the same. You have to interpret the text in order to interpret the picture, and interpret the picture in order to interpret the text. So when we say illustrate, it's completely misleading. It isn't. What it is a dynamic between the two. And it's why the picture book, in my mind, is just a wonderful high art form that is yet available for everybody, where the wild things are, any picture book you say, because of this dynamic that goes on. And what Helen, who of course is a genius, knew that we're going on a bear hunt, and it's nothing to do with these people, but that's the fun of it, because you've got to interpret it. And then you have this wonderful moment when the bear meets the dog, but even then she's got this wonderful postscript of the bear, imitation of bear a la Helen Oxenbury. walking along the beach, and I've never been with young children and that book and the bear without children saying to me, "What's the bear thinking?" And I always say, "I don't know. I didn't do the picture. I don't know. What do you think?" And they say, it's extraordinary what the children say. They say things like, "Well, he wanted to go shopping." And I go, "Right, yeah." Or they say, quite often they say, "Well, he wanted to play. And that's why he's disappointed, because they ran away. He wanted to play." So see what they're filling in. See the level of interpretation. What, believe it or not, the literary theorists call gaps, the gaps. Scholes, the great literary theorist, what's his first name? Robert, Richard? Remember? Anyway, Scholes, when we read, we interpret. We don't just read. And in the picture books, that dynamic is all there. So, long answer to your very small question. I think that's also the excitement with the book, is that there are these wonderful gaps in the book. And there are many stories. If you say, "What's the dog story?" you can follow the dog through the book, and there's the dog story. If you follow the baby is extraordinary. What the baby gets up to, you can just follow the baby. And then there's whole questions about who the adult male is. Is he the dad? Is he the older brother? Who he is? And Helen is very enigmatic about it. She goes, "I don't really know," she says. I kind of thought it might be. And the rumour is that it's actually based on David Lloyd, the director of Walker Books, that she actually, it does look quite a lot like him. It looks a bit like Tintin as well. But anyway, so she's kept that, so she keeps quiet about it. And I think the dog is her dog, actually. The dog is her dog. And it isn't Cornwall, it's the Norfolk coast. No, I've let it down. I've let the secret out. It's a fantasy place. What am I saying? Oh.
Thank you. That was a wonderful impression of the bear. In fact, I have a 2-year-old nephew who he will just skip to that particular page at the moment and show me the bear.
Well, that says it, you see. So Helen Oxenbury, who inherits, I'm not being grandiose here, she inherits the art of Michelangelo and Rembrandt, where what you're doing is you express feeling through line and colour and shape and composition, in this way. And then when children look at it, they can invest it with emotional force and power. It's just incredible. I mean, just with a bear, just going like that, and you just think it's just a line on a piece of paper with some colour on it, and that's what, a 1-year-old or 2-year-old can look at it and get that, and indeed a 92 or 102-year-old can. It's incredible.
You were kind of brushed on the real power of children's literature. I wondered if as an author and as a university teacher, if you could put into words why children's literature is just so important.
It's the starting point, isn't it? This is a point made by a great writer, S.F. Said, that if you just think, all of you here are readers, I'm guessing. All of you here like literature, like books, or you read TV, read the rest of it, and there's a whole set of whatever you want to call them, tropes, motifs, themes, patterns to literature. In actual fact, all the ground rules, if you like, for those, very nearly all of them, were laid down when you read children's books. When you did your first reading. If you read Enid Blyton, well, she lays down all the if you like, all the tropes and motifs for whodunits, right? The way in which the classic method of literature of reveal, conceal. That's to say, as I reveal something to you, at the same time I conceal it. So if I say, once upon a time there was a woodcutter, I've revealed to you a woodcutter, but I haven't said anything more about it because I've concealed it. Or if I say to you, the person walked past a house and looked up and the windows were dark, and this person, whoever it is, she couldn't see who was there, then I'm revealing, concealing. And you look at Dickens, he's a classic reveal, conceal writer, he does it all the time. And so you learn that right from the very first stories that you hear, and you can go through a whole set of these, whatever you might think of, the very language of figurative language, the idea that something is like something else but isn't the same, but you can say it's similar, but you don't have to say it is. You can say, when you say pull up your socks, you don't actually mean pull up your socks or pull your socks up. All this whole area of the method of literature, it's laid down from 0 to 10, if you like, or 0 to 12. It's all there. It doesn't mean it says everything. I'm saying it's these motifs and tropes and methods, or whatever they are, whatever you pick, what's called narratology as well. That's to say, how do you tell a story? Do you have an omniscient narrator? Do you have an unreliable narrator? Do you have no narrator? You can even have a second-person narrator. A couple of those poems are sort of second-person narration because I talk you. It's as if I'm just addressing the second person. So, you know, a lot of this is laid down, again, all that narratology is laid down in children's books as well, so you don't question it. You don't question how it is the omniscient narrator can get from inside one head to another head to another head. If it's a first-person narrative, what can that first-person narrator see? And sometimes books fudge it. All this. So, in a way, that's one whole chunk of why children's literature is important. The other thing is it's actually quite nice. And if you're a kid, it's good fun and you enjoy it, and also it can be quite scary. And that's quite nice because it's also quite safe. So when you meet the wild things, they get tamed and he comes home. Mind you, have you noticed when he comes home, Max, in Where the Wild Things Are, just let you into a secret, have you noticed his mum isn't actually there? All there is the supper, which was still hot. But mum actually isn't there. Nor is she there at the beginning, because you can't see her. There's a mysterious absence. And maybe that's one of the reasons why kids find that book so fascinating.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Zara. I just wanted to open it up because we have a few minutes before we go to dinner, and Michael's happy to take questions on anything from children's literature to his YouTube channel. So,
yes, anything, yes.
Anything you'd like to ask.
Thank you.
Who wants to go first? Just over here. Yep.
Hello. You spoke earlier about wanting to see your brain. Do you prefer to interact with the mechanisms of your brain in like a passive, observant way, or do you like to change it for your own benefit?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Yes. Sometimes I quite like the passivity to see what's coming up, you know, and there's been a lot of that since I was ill because, well, my first experiences when I came out of the coma was that things were appearing involuntarily because they had indeed filled my brain with mind-changing drugs. And I can tell you here, even though I was here in the 60s, I have never ever touched anything narcotic. I've hardly ever drunk alcohol. I'm a rather strange person like that. There's a strange kind of Puritan streak through me. So I have never taken anything that's called a drug apart from what doctors give me. So when the doctor said, you know, we gave you mind-changing drugs, I thought, what? Having never had it, you know, of any kind. So anyway, so I did look at him quite strangely at that. But yes, I was essentially on morphine, presumably, both to sedate me and to paralyse me. I had to be paralysed because they, you know, if you just picture me now, mime of Michael in bed, I'm intubated, yes, I've got this through my throat. So a lot of involuntary thoughts and things came to me. So I sort of quite enjoyed that in a way, but at the same time, I'm somebody that likes to kind of turn the cogs. I am, so it's yes to both of your questions, really, that I do like to say, I sometimes say to children, look, you've got your 5 senses, so that's one thing you can do if you're writing. You can wonder what you're seeing, and then you can write down what you can see, and the posh word for that is imagism, actually, but anyway, I might share that with secondary children. All right, but you can write down what you hear, and so on, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch. But then you can imagine. You can do that, and you can get your mind just imagining, and the nicest way to do it is just to daydream. In fact, when children ask me, you know, what was your favourite subject at school, I say daydreaming. Or people say to me, you know, what lesson would you most like to put into the school curriculum? And I go, daydreaming, definitely, because it helps you write. I mean, if you go like this, there you go, you see, you all had some thoughts then, didn't you? You could use that and write. So that's daydreaming. So that's sort of with the cogs. But the other thing you can do is do archaeology on memory. So you have remembering and imagining to play with as well. So quite often I'll go through a sort of memory game with myself and say things to myself like, what was that moment? We were on a camping holiday and my dad was outside the tent and it was pouring with rain. And then he was moaning that he was digging a trench. And you see what I mean? So then I go there and then I try to find what it was about and why I've remembered it. So that's quite active working the cogs, isn't it? So that's different from the other one, yeah.
Other questions? Over here. Up, there you go. Sorry. Great.
Hello. Sorry, can you put your mic just a bit now? Remember, I'm deaf, so yeah.
You made quite a few religious references.
Yes.
Has your relationship with faith changed with your COVID experience?
I've never had a faith. I'm Jewish, but that doesn't involve Judaism as a belief or as a practice particularly. My parents were communists from 1936 to 57. When I was 11 years old, they left the Communist Party then. But they were always very, very aware of their Jewishness, which was often expressed through language, through talking about things all around them. So when I was growing up, for example, I thought that the English word for a drying up cloth was a schmatter, right? So my mum would say, pass me the schmatter, or if you're drying up, you need the schmatter. And so I just thought that was, I'd go to school and I'd say things like, yeah, when like you're drying up, you have to dry up and do chores, where you got the schmatter. And my friends would go, what? What's a schmatter? And I'd say, well, it's the thing you dry up with. And they go, no, it isn't. So I go home and I go, Mum, the folks at school, they say it's not a schmatter, it's called a drying up cloth. And Mum said, no, it's a schmatter. So Mum was very helpful like that. Or she'd say, you don't want to go out looking like a schloch. And I'd say, what's a schloch, Mum? And she said, well, the thing you don't want to look like when you go out. It's always... Or she'd come, she was very good like that. Well, Mum would walk into me and my brother's bedroom and say, this place, it's a Mishida monk. I said, what's a Mishida monk? She said, well, this place. So that was how Mum taught me Yiddish. My father used a lot of it in his speech. So lots of things, that again, like if you had a chicken, he would say, who wants the pulka? Which is the leg, or who wants the flegel, which Ray would know, is the wing, you see. So, and I would just think that's what they're called. So when I was growing up, so there was that aspect of language. And then they talked very much about their experience of being Jewish in the 1930s in the East End of London. And that had quite an effect on me, in a way, talking about that sort of thing. And then my father liked telling stories, and he knew some Jewish stories which he would tell. And in fact, I always thought that my dad was the sort of Yiddishist and knew the most Yiddish, and Mum just dropped them in there just every now and then, whereas my dad could string things together, as well as the strange moment that used to happen where my dad would mutter under his breath something like, Hannigan loch. And Mum would say, don't say that. And we'd say, what did he say? And then she'd say, don't tell them, Harold. Don't tell them. And of course, I never found out, though as it happens, my mum died quite young, relatively, 56 and so on. So some years tactfully after that, I'd say, I had to call my dad by his first name because they were communists. So I'd say, Harold, that was actually a joke as well, but anyway, no, it's true. He did say, anyway, Harold, when you used to go, what did that mean? He said, I can't tell you. Anyway, he did tell me. It's so disgusting, that one, I really can't. But anyway, there's a whole string. So I'm now learning Yiddish. I do Yiddish classes on Zoom every Sunday night for 2 hours. And believe it or not, 2 lessons ago, our teacher, Tamara, said, who knows any Yiddish curses? And I went, me, miss. I know some. And she said, okay, what do you know? And I went the first one, bump like that. And she said, just say that again. What does that mean? I said, I actually know what that would mean. So I told that, and the rest of the group were going, oh. And the next one, and yeah, sure enough. Anyway, they're kind of medieval, If I just tell you that one of them means, may you get cholera. And my father is saying in 1955, may you get cholera. I can do it for you if you want. Chapa chaliera, there you go. So to chap is may you get, okay, it's or get, like that, it's the imperative, get. Chapa chaliera, or if you're a bit more polite about it, you can say, chaliera sollst du nehmen. Yes, Ray, so Ray will know that. Sollst du is should you should. Nehmen is take or get. Yes, so chaliera is Yiddish for cholera, or Hebrew. So anyway, so I do Yiddish classes, not Hebrew classes. Which is quite difficult for me because Yiddish is written with a form of the Hebrew alphabet, and I did go to Hebrew classes, which was quite strange for parents with communist parents. I can explain that later. And I ran away from Hebrew classes after 6 weeks because they shouted at me at Chessington Zoo. And I said, I don't want to go, Cheder it's called in Hebrew. I don't want to go to Cheder anymore. They shouted at me at Chessington Zoo. And my parents said, oh, well, okay. Because earlier, what happened was that a boy in the playground called Peter Keller came up to me and he said, I was 7. He said, you're Jewish, aren't you? And I said, I think so, yeah. And he said, well, my mum says you've got to go to Cheder. She teaches Cheder on Sundays at the Pinner Shul. I was brought up in Pinner, would you believe? And so you got to. So I went home and said, Peter Keller says that I've got to go to Cheder, Mum. And she went, oh yes, that's nice. So my atheist, communist, Jewish mother went, oh yes, that's nice. Anyway, so when my grandfather came over, and there had been some tension between my mother and her mother and father over faith and all that, came over, he just couldn't help but kill himself laughing, which in Yiddish is called plotzing. He couldn't help but plotz. And he sat there going, Michael's going to Cheder. Zayda, he's called, grandfather. Michael's going to Cheder. And my parents sat there, yeah, that's right, yeah. Like they couldn't do anything about it. Anyway, I only know 3 of the letters, knew only 3 of the letters. There's about 40. And then 2 or 3 weeks ago, Tamara, the Yiddish teacher, says, now you've got to learn the handwriting. So there's another 40 characters. The others, they didn't run away from Cheder. They're doing fine. It comes up and they go, blah, 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 they do it like that. And there's me struggling, going, is that a Vov or a Yud? Is that an Aleph or is that a Comet? Anyway, so 80 letters. I'm 77. Can I have some sympathy here? I've learned 80 letters at my age, noch.
Unfortunately, we've got to stop, actually.
Oh, right. Sorry about that. We've only just begun.
Actually, it does feel like we've just begun. But we've got drinks through in the atrium, which everybody's welcome to, and Michael will be there. So if you want to come and say hello, please do. And he said he'd very kindly sign books if you have them or anything else. So please do come through. I just wanted to end by saying, thank you very much, Michael, for a wonderful evening. And thank you, Zara, too.
Thanks for having
fantastic.
Me. It's lovely. Lovely being in this great historic room, which I came to when I was here and listening to people playing wonderful music in here. Sorry I didn't play any music. I didn't bring my very bad blues harmonica playing for you. Woke up this morning, you were saved that, so that's right. But if I do come back, Bernard and I have an agreement that there'll be some traditional Irish music. I gather there's some wonderful traditional Irish musicians here. So as a special treat for me, we'll hear a bit of fiddle and pipes or something like that, yes. Or maybe accordion. Yeah, hope so.
Thank you very much.